Itu majlis dengan hormatnya mempersilakan Yang Berusaha Dr. Zainal Abidin Sanusi selaku perantara dan ahli-ahli panel iaitu Yang Berbahagia Profesor Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Razak, Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail dan Yang Berusaha Profesor Dr. Arfa Saleh untuk mengambil tempat. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Pertamanya, terima kasih Tuan Pengurusi Majlis. Keduanya, terima kasih kepada para hadirin yang dihormati yang budiman yang masih bersama untuk sesi plenary yang ketiga, yang terakhir hari ini. Masih ramai lagi di sini. Alhamdulillah, masih lagi yang mencari roh dan kolbu dalam pengajian tinggi. Alhamdulillah, kita sudah dibentangkan daripada sesi pagi, sesi plenary 1, plenary kedua, yang mengemukakan berbagai isu dasar, isu-isu nilai dan isu kerangka yang juga ditanyakan juga oleh partisipan, dan ada soalan-soalan yang mengemukakan secara terus di mana jawapannya, di mana kerangka model yang kita boleh lihat, kerana ini bukan satu isu yang asing yang telah banyak kali kita bicarakan seperti yang dikatakan tadi, sudah dibicarakan pada 1980s. Maka Alhamdulillah hari ini untuk slot yang terakhir ini bagi menjawab persoalan-persoalan tersebut dan untuk tidak menjadikan perbincangan kita ini seperti yang Wan Zahid mention tadi, Tan Sri Wan Zahid mention tadi, another round of discussion, another rhetoric, untuk meletakkan inti parti, untuk menunjukkan kesungguhan ACAP. Keseriusan tak boleh kot, nanti Prof Teo marah. Untuk kesungguhan kita bawakan 3 pengalaman, ya. Cuma ada perubahan sedikit. Di samping kita cepatkan proses, kita akan tukar sedikit kerana speaker yang seorang lagi masih dalam perjalanan. Kita akan mulakan dengan pengalaman daripada dan juga idea, ya, gagasan daripada Prof Datuk Asma Ismail. Biodatanya saya rasa sudah ada di sini, tidak perlu di-highlightkan, dan juga antara wanita yang terkenal di Malaysia dan juga di Middle East, ya. Yang selalu kita panggil di ACAP, ya, yang selalu berkongsi pengalaman terutama dari segi research, perspektif dan sebagainya. Kita juga ada Prof Arfa Saleh yang merupakan CEO Putra Business School yang akan berkongsi pengalaman yang sama, the pragmatic perspective, the practical experience, how are we facing this and how are we trying to interpret whatever that we talk about since morning. So tanpa melengahkan masa, kita jemput speaker yang pertama, Prof Asma, untuk berkongsi pengalaman dan pandangan beliau. Kita bagi ruang masa 20 minit untuk berkongsi. Dipersilakan Prof Asma.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Pertamanya saya ucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada Prof Zainal Sanusi daripada ACAP dan juga penganjur kerana telah memberi peluang kepada saya untuk berceloteh sedikit tentang ataupun beri sedikit idea tentang transforming higher education through soul-driven leadership. Sebenarnya, after listening to Tan Sri Nakib Al-Atas, I'm not sure whether we can go to the level that he's talking about. But I think at the end of the day, we are all here still. And we are here still because we want to find out about how we're going to do things. Should we get out of this room and go back to the university? There must be something that we can do. All right, so I'm not sure whether we have the correct answer, but it's better to start something than not to start at all. And that perhaps also it's better to start in stages. That perhaps you may not get the final ultimate answer requested by Tan Sri Nakib Al-Atas, but perhaps you can see the various stages as Malaysian higher education also is going through the evolutionary framework. Yeah? So, first thing, before we decide what kind of university we want, we must first decide what kind of society to build, because we are crucial to the setting up of the kind of society that we would want. And the turnkey to transformation of knowledge and mindset change is basically education. And the current education landscape can only be transformed through direct involvement and engagement. That means to say, if you're going to change anything, it has to start with self. It has to be people-focused, all right? So we need to, and as you say, the soul in higher education, that means it's going to be people-focused. It's going to be focused on the students, it's going to be focused on the lecturers, the academic staff, and we need to focus also on the admin staff that is running the university. I welcome Tan Sri Zul for being here, right? Tan Sri Zul is my sifu for information for everyone. He is the one yang menginsafkan saya ke arah doing things for humanity. So I hope that what I have to present, I'm just starting, Tan Sri, I have not failed you. So basically, when we now project what is the new era demand regarding education and research paradigm, we have gone through these various stages, but right now, Malaysia or Asia is in the knowledge-based economy, but beyond that, other countries do not wait for Malaysia to grow up. They have gone through the bio-green economy age, and right now it is in the moving towards the humanization economy age, where suddenly now it is no longer knowledge, but what have you done with that knowledge? That means we are moving now to wisdom. We're moving to virtues, moral, spiritual. Isn't that what we are talking today? Because bottom line now, the future concentrates on what have you done, the interpretation, the meaning, the understanding of that knowledge, and rather not just gathering of knowledge. Basically, the future is asking higher education to have soul and virtues in the higher education framework. And that, in essence, is the Islamic-based education. So when we see the shift from the education paradigm, from the 20th century in only generating and disseminating knowledge, now we find that as we move to the 21st century, which is moving to globalization, humanization economy now plays a role, where now they are insisting on character building, on virtues, on moral, on values, on ethics, and on wisdom. Because as even the Prime Minister has mentioned, knowledge alone is dangerous. As you know, we are now being attacked by the digital age, and this is where information overload is now coming. Now, how now do the students and even all of us can now differentiate between what is signal and what is noise? As Tan Sri Nakib Al-Atas said tadi, not every knowledge is useful knowledge. So how now we can discriminate this if the students are not being taught to learn how to interpret, how to understand, how to put meaning to the data that has now been presented upon them. But to face reality, we talked just now this morning about having all this in the curriculum. But at the end of the day, as the Vice Chancellor of the university, you got to be practical. You got to be able to move the university, moving to catch up with times in a changing world, but at the same time trying to put this soul into the framework, all right? Because at the end of the day, we are under pressure. Higher education is under pressure, right? But at the end of the day, the essence of the university still need to be there. That means the university must be a place that is open for discussion, must continue to allow and encourage the mind to inquire and to close the inequity divide. That is why we set up the university. It is meant for nation building. All right? And to be able to have new ideas, discoveries to create jobs for the people. Along the way, create wealth for the country. But what do we do with all the information? Perhaps we need to bring to the next level to help the ummah or humanity. So this means at the end of the day, whatever we try to do, the university has got to close the inequity divide and ensure accessibility of higher education to all. Right? Because it is very important for us to create knowledge among society. So in short, the universities need to be 3R, to be referred, to be respected, to be relevant. 3R, referred, respected, relevant, mungkin tuan-tuan dan puan-puan mungkin tambah lagi, but all these three need to start first so that we are referred, respected, relevant to the community, to the society, and to humanity. So all these are ideals again. So I don't want you to go out of this door again thinking, again, discussion, what is practical, how are we going to go about it? But before I start doing that, we all have to face the fact that the world is no longer static, and universities now faces new challenges in a changing world. And there are many challenges, but bottom line, I cannot bentangkan satu-satu because of the lack of time. But I like to emphasize on one big problem now, which is we are faced with globalization and we are moving towards globalization until we are hit with the global economic crisis. Okay? Now, the global economic crisis basically created the biggest tsunami impact to the universities. In Malaysia, and it is not just Malaysia but worldwide, instead of slowly cutting back our operationals as promised by the government to 30% after X number of years, now overnight, we have now within a short span of a few years, now cut back to greater than 20% budget cut. And suddenly now anak-anak dalam universiti, warga universiti semua crying because they say, oh, not enough, not enough, not enough. But the government has warned us many times that we are supposed to be able to generate our own income. It's just that we think that we have time. Suddenly, overnight, all plans are not yet in place and budget is already cut. And this is the next tsunami where the announcement of rising salary of staff. Bila yang tu berlaku, emolument makes up the biggest chunk of the operational budget. Semua Naib Chancellor dalam bilik ini faham. And administrators dalam bilik ini faham. Bendahari lagi faham. Every time you make an announcement of a salary increase, kita semua mengeluh, how we gonna pay for this, right? So this is the other things, right? So universities overnight, basically, ladies and gentlemen, need to find means and measures to stay alive. So, as it stands now, in Malaysia at least, the only institution that can award degree is the university, all right? And we say this is our trump card. And in business, when you hold the trump card, this is what create the ability to generate income. So the fastest way to generate income is now to raise the tuition fees because students still need to get degrees. And we pass whatever operational that we now need that is lacking, and that is now passed down to tuition fees. And as a result, foreign students coming into the university get full fees that they need to pay. What are we doing? When we start to do that, where is the soul? Because remember what I said just now, the university is supposed to be closing the inequity divide, creating a knowledgeable society. But when we raise the tuition fees, we are now confronted with the innovation economy that will now ensure that the rich becomes richer and the poor becomes poorer. Because now what the poor can afford, now even the poor cannot afford to now come in. So if the poor do not have accessibility to education, then they are not going to be able to change their life at all. And if you ask